What's up, y'all? A little faith, and welcome to episode number 11 of the
Fagnostic Podcast.
I'm your host, Matt Hayes, and if I'm still giving you episodes, it means that I'm still searching for answers. And today, I've got 5 gay men from my hometown of Decatur, Alabama.
Row Tide Row.
Who are here to talk about growing up in the theocracy that is small town Southern America.
Praise Jesus.
Kirk Averitt and I grew up on the same street in Decatur, but we're not friends until reconnecting here in Los Angeles. He's a conductor, vocalist, and music educator based in LA, currently serving as the assistant director of the Vocal Arts Conservatory at the San Gabriel Valley campus of the California School of the Arts, as well as the musical director of the Arroyo Singers in Pasadena. Y'all, I've lived here for 8 years and I still don't know if I say that word right. Arroyo. Who's to say? Austin Willingham considers himself a wanderlust nomad. He works as a travel consultant, investor, and entrepreneur, and has worked all over the world. He's a PK, which for those of you who don't know means preacher's kid. There's a lot to unpack there. Michael Howard is the son of my high school science teacher. He was just a little boy when I knew him, but as an out and proud man living in North Alabama, he works in IT and has worked in local theater. John Day and I were in middle school band together. He's the first person I ever heard called gay. And he was a victim of my own homophobia, which we're going to discuss in this episode. He works in the wireless industry and has been married to his husband for 2 years. Andrew Paul's mother was the church organist at Central Park Baptist Church, where I was brought up. He lives in Chicago and is a software developer manager, managing many of the top arts organizations in the US, including the Met Opera in New York City, the Cleveland Orchestra, the Lyric Opera in Chicago, and many, many more. He previously marched drum corps and winter guard. This episode is meant to shine a light on what it was like growing up gay in a small town in Alabama that once held the record for most churches per square mile in the Guinness Book of World Records.
Congrats?
There are so many churches that they have to share parking lots. People from the River City often joke, Decatur where it's greater.
Here.
But in this episode, you're gonna see how it might actually be Decatur where it's gayer.
Queer.
Here are some of the gay men from Decatur, Alabama, talking about how they didn't let a small, church-centric town keep them from succeeding and loving. Welcome, fellas. Y'all, welcome. I'm probably the most excited about this episode of any episode that I've done so far, because this is 5 fabulous gay men of Decatur, Alabama. And just so everyone knows, none of us live there anymore. And there's a reason. We're going to talk about it. But all of us have come from Decatur, Alabama. And I wanted to do this episode to kind of highlight growing up gay in a small town, which many of us hear about, but you're really about to hear some specific experiences, events, memories, and things and good and bad things that have happened to us in our time in Decatur and kind of where we are now. I'm going to introduce everyone one by one, and we're going to ask our questions that we start every episode off with, which is, are you a believer? So I'm going to go in the order in which I see you on my screen. Kirk Averitt, thank you for being here. Are you a believer?
Yes.
Do you want to expound on that?
I believe in like higher principles like love and justice and equality, and try to meditate on those and live those things out, and think that if I stick with that I'll be doing the right thing.
Sure. And can you identify your pronouns for us?
He, him, his.
Thank you. John, I know you as John Day, but it's John Lapham. Thank you for being here. We have spoken in the past about my apologizing for behavior with you that I want to hit on too, because there's a bit of homophobia that homosexuals can exhibit, and I was an example of that. But I'm so thankful you're here. Are you a believer?
I am a believer. I, like Kirk, I don't know if I believe in just a single God. I've done a lot of research in my life and reading about different religions. I even have somewhere the Idiot's Guide to Religions, just so that I could get an understanding of how everyone believes what they believe. But yes, I am a believer in a higher power of love, happiness, truth, justice, prosperity. I believe in that.
Yes. And can you identify your pronouns for us?
He, him, his.
Thank you. Mike Howard. I remember you as Michael, but you prefer Mike. Can you, thank you for being here, first of all. And can you please tell us if you are a believer?
I'm not. I don't really believe in anything higher outside of the physical world.
Great. I'm excited to hear about that because I know you to come from very smart people. And oftentimes people who have studied the things that you have studied do find that it's hard to believe in something outside the physical. So I'm excited to get into that. And can you also identify your pronouns for us?
He, him, his.
Thank you. Andrew Paul, who is the son of my childhood organist. Thank you for being here. Are you a believer?
I am not.
Good.
But she still is a church organist, by the way.
Yeah. Is she a believer?
I don't know. I think she's like, yes, but I think she like questions a lot. You know what I mean?
Good.
I think me being gay has thrown a lot of wrenches in her wheel. So
yeah, I think that's a lot of our parents, and we'll talk about that. And can you identify your pronouns for us?
He, him, his.
Thank you. Austin Willingham, a new friend, but with many connections otherwise. Thank you for being here as a new friend to my life. Are you a believer?
I am a believer to an extent. Believe in kind of like a lot of people have said, I'm still uncovering exactly what it is that I do believe, but I do believe in a higher power.
Awesome. And can you identify your pronouns?
Yes, he, him, his.
Great. So it looks like as we have two believers, two non-believers. So I'm like the Kamala Harris of this group as the agnostic who has to like decide as a whole, are we believers or not? And I'm going to hold my gavel until the end of the episode, until I knock it down and make the final call. Y'all, already just looking at your faces, I have got a bazillion things I want to talk about today. We'll try to keep it around an hour.
Spoiler alert, that doesn't happen.
We'll see where the spirit or the non-spirit leads us. So Kurt, you and I grew up on the same street in Decatur, Alabama. I'm not going to say the street because that could get creepy. Not that I, think that we have, any fans, but those kinds of fans specifically, they may show up on our parents' doorstep.
They exist.
They do exist. But you and I didn't really know each other growing up. We knew of each other and saw each other, I'm sure, at football games or at, band competitions or choir whatever's. But our churches, and just so everyone knows, Decatur, Alabama, at one time held the Guinness Book of World Records for having the most churches per square mile in the world.
Per capita or something like that.
Yeah. And I tell people, especially here in LA, when church is not a thing, but back home, when you meet someone, what's your name? Where do you go to church, and what team do you root for? Auburn, Alabama. Because the second question, where do you go to church, determines what school district you're in, what socioeconomic status you're in, probably who you voted for. It determines everything about your lifestyle. And especially your kids' lifestyle, which is a big part of people going to church, is just to have that community for your kids, I think. But our churches were across the road from each other. I went to Central Park Baptist Church, and you went to Beltline Church of Christ. But then Austin and I, your parents are pastors, and y'all had a church that was behind Central Park, my parents' church, and we shared a parking lot. And that's something that people laugh about when I talk about Decatur churches, is that there are so many churches in Decatur that you have to share parking lots because there's not enough land for all the people that go to church on a Sunday and a Wednesday.
Or rent out like the Dillard's home store, or a grocery store into a church.
Yeah. It's insane how much church dictates all of society in Decatur, Alabama.
A movie theater.
It is as close to a theocracy as one could get, I think, growing up in a small town in the South. But growing up Church of Christ, from the outside in, I only know Church of Christ to not allow instruments in the church, and y'all all can harmonize like a son of a bitch at the drop of a hat.
It's true.
But I also know it to be a very conservative denomination. What was it like growing up Church of Christ in Decatur, Alabama?
It was probably, as everyone here, it was very insular, right? So like I was there Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night. And then when I was at school, I was usually with those people or going over to their houses. But as far as the theology of it, it was very similar to, I'm sure everyone here, like fear-based and just things you don't do. It wasn't so much focused on how do we become the presence. It was more so like, how do we stay away from the scary world out there? And that came through, and the rules, like you said, of no instruments, which did have its silver lining of me like learning to read music and use my ears with music a lot better. And I'm a musician, so that helped a whole lot in my life. But it's also like women weren't allowed to speak or like have leadership roles in the church. There was a very clear like dress code. So I could go on at length and probably a whole hour about that, but that's the short of.
Were y'all the ones that had to the females had to wear the denim dresses?
No, those are, what is that like?
That's Church of God, right?
I don't know. I hate to put someone in a pet or a hole there,
Oh,
but it's like Pentecostal or
that's Pentecostal.
Yeah, that may be right. I love to paint with a broad stroke myself, though, so I don't care. But Church of Christ is not an affirming denomination, is what I'm getting at, right?
Of course not. No, I went to a Church of Christ college, and I still somewhere on an old laptop have a presentation that I gave as a freshman in college, trying to convince people that gay marriage was wrong. Like that's how. Yeah, I was 18.
I get it. I spoke. Did any of y'all do True Love Waits rallies? Remember those? Okay, True Love Waits was a Baptist thing, and it's basically where, as a prepubescent child, you are committing in front of a group of people that you will not have sex before marriage. And there is a video somewhere. I've been trying to find it. I've spoken about it once on this podcast of me in a falsetto voice where I don't even have hair on my balls, telling people that sex is a gift from God and that we have to wait for marriage before we have sex. And if someone could find this video, I would put it on my reel. It would make my life to find this. I've got to find it. But it just speaks to how we, in order to perpetuate the belief system that we think we have to have because of society around us, we will speak louder and more consistently, and just to try to get rid of that aspect of ourselves. I was saying that because I knew I was different at that time. And if I could commit myself more to God and be called to the ministry and whatever, then that must be the work I had to do to get rid of my gayness. So I think that kind of reminds me of that, Kirk, with you giving that speech on why gay marriage is wrong. Although some of the gays I know shouldn't get married, so maybe we should stick to that. I don't know. John, you did not grow up in church, correct?
I did not.
You lucky bitch.
I thank my parents for that.
But what was it like? I mean, because that's actually weird, because in Decatur, if you don't go to church, there's a disassociation from you socially.
Yes.
So where did your friends come from? Where did your family's friends come from?
I think that was part of, so everyone says that high school is the best 4 years of your life.
Who says that?
It was a lot of people. That's what I've read, at least, that people say high school is the best 4 years. And I can tell you that it definitely was not.
I would like to look at the people that say that and see what their lives are like now, because I bet that it was the best 4 years of their life.
Yeah, there's a correlation there.
They peaked early.
Yeah.
No. So I do think that's what caused me to be kind of short on friends then, was that we didn't attend a church, and that there was no reason other than my parents just thought it became so political in the church that they gave my sister and I a choice. You can go to church, you don't have to go to church. My grandfather was an incredibly religious man. And he wasn't thrilled with that, but we made the choice to sleep in on Sundays instead of go to church. But yeah, no, in Decatur, it definitely, I think, was one of the reasons why I didn't have as many friends as I wanted to, was because I just didn't have that common link to associate with someone else.
Right. Did your parents accept pretty quickly when you came out as gay?
So my mom, who is completely fine. I mean, she calls my husband her son.
Oh.
My mom was a little hesitant at first, but I will never, ever forget the words that my dad said. And it was very, it was very opposite. I would have thought this would have come from my mom and not my dad. But my dad's words to me were, "Son, the only thing that I have ever wanted from you in your entire life is for you just to be happy. That's it." And that was probably the most, it threw the curveball, because I was expecting to have to defend myself and have to stand up, and this is who I am as your son. This is, you're still supposed to love me. And it just happened that they were both okay. My mom tried to make a joke about it. She's like, well, son, I wasn't born yesterday. I've known this for a while, just waiting for you. But my dad really took me by surprise.
Wow.
Because I just didn't think, I guess I didn't know him as well as I thought I did, for him to say that to me. And it are words that still sit in the forefront of my mind all the time.
I think a lot of kids today are getting that message, but men of our age, and we're all ranging from like Mike, you're probably the youngest. How old are you?
28.
Okay. So, and Austin, how old are you?
I'm 26. I'm a little bit younger.
Lord, we got a baby, y'all. Oh my God. But I think I don't want to. I mean, I'm 10 years your senior, but men of our age, that was not a common story. Just so everyone knows what John just described. Do you feel like y'all not being a part of a church had an influence on how quick they were to at least create a safe space for you? Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Do you feel like y'all not being a part of church allowed them to more quickly create a safe space for you?
I think so. I think so. Yes.
Wow. Mike, what was it? Y'all went to First Bible, is that right? No.
Yeah, we started out at Southside.
Southside, yeah.
And then I think I was a little young, but there was church drama going on, and we ended up switching over to a church in Huntsville.
Oh, y'all went to Grace. Y'all went to Grace, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, shit. That's right. Yeah. Oh, wow. And Grace. So I've talked about the Grace Community Church here in LA before on this show. And Grace Church in Huntsville I don't think it was like a direct satellite campus, but it was very much modeled after the John MacArthur brand of theology, which the John MacArthur brand of theology is nothing but hate and ignorance. And it's also ironic because he calls his church Grace Community Church, and there's not an ounce of grace exhibited from that pulpit. And I have been at that in that congregation many times in high school and college, because I used to come out for the pastor's conference when I was trying to become a pastor. And that church knows nothing about the grace. I think they actually exploit the community that they live in, that the church is housed in, by taking advantage of people that are in need. And then they create a need for them by being, there's a savior complex coming from the ministry of that church. I have no good things to say about them. And I don't give a shit who knows it. So you went from Southside, which is a conservative Southern Baptist church, very old school Southern Baptist church, beautiful church, by the way.
Very beautiful.
Yeah. And I just remember it being so sad because I would go to church there sometimes, and there would be like 100 people in this congregation in a building that housed about 1,400 people. And it was just so sad to see, or not sad, I guess looking back, it just showed that people were, smarter than what the ministers were putting out. But Grace Community Church was also a Calvinist church, wasn't it?
I think so. I'm not 100. We left before I really started like kind of processing their doctrine. But yeah, I think it is more Calvinist than. Yeah.
So predestination, just so everyone knows, is a big tenet of Calvinism. There's 5 points of Calvinism. There's the innate evilness of man. It's not the right wordage, but basically that we're all the innate depravity of mankind, original sin, predestination, and I forget the others. But I know you, Mike, because your mom was my high school science teacher, and is truly one of the smartest women on the planet. Like her brain works in a way that I cannot comprehend. Science has never been my strong suit. So I don't know how I ever passed her classes. But God bless her. Cause I transferred from Austin to Decatur Heritage early on in high school. And I really took a liking to her. I felt so safe with her, and also Ms. Holland. And I mean, it's, in looking back, I don't regret choosing to go to that school. And I'm so thankful my parents they justified affording that school, that private school for me, because the teachers were so thoughtful and caring and loving and allowed to be, physically engaged with, giving hugs to students and saying, I'll pray for you. I found that so valuable. But in her intelligence, what was it like for you coming out? Because to me, when you're that smart and you understand the science of sexuality and gender and within nature, I would assume that you would have a natural inclination to understanding this is okay, but that's not how it went.
No, and I think some of that goes along with her. I think there's like a confirmation bias. situation going on there, or maybe not so much that, but cognitive dissonance as far as how she processes that kind of thing, because she is a scientist. She understands how chemistry works. She understands how experiments are done, scientific experiments, and yet she still is a young Earth creationist.
Mm-hmm.
So she holds on to that belief versus anything that might threaten that. She'll ignore, or she won't really process it until she's done it through a church or some kind of biblical resource.
Right. And creationist, as in she believes in like God basically voicing creation at the sound of their voice.
6,000-year-old universe. Yeah.
I used to be there. I mean, I remember drawing a calendar in high school that was predicting the start of the tribulation period based on my own studies of mankind's history. And I know why that 6,000-year-old assumption exists. But, I was telling my mom recently too, like, to me, even if you're a creationist, I don't think that creationism and evolution are mutually exclusive. If you believe in the creation concept, to me, if you're a Christian, there's a chance for praise and worship and accepting evolution as part of creationist story. Like because we don't know what a day is. We don't know what those people who wrote those early books of the Bible, how their words were translated. I think there's a really cool opportunity to deepen your faith, if that's the journey you're on, by accepting bits of evolution as part of the creationist story. But that's not something that's up for consideration, I assume.
No, I mean, they have gone to like the Creation Museum in Kentucky a few times.
Not the Creation Museum.
Yes, I have been dragged along twice. Once when I was a kid, and I was like all into it, and then the second time was when I was starting my my deconversion, and I was seeing it for what it was.
Yep.
Thankfully, that was before the Ark Encounter was there, because I think I would have had a brain aneurysm if I had to go through that. But
although I have to tell you, I want to go to the Ark exhibit so bad. It looks like the funnest theme park.
If somebody else pays for it, I'll go. But
Sure.
I'm
right.
I do not get my own money.
That's fair. That's very fair. Andrew, who I spoke of earlier, you are the child of my childhood organist, Miss Virginia, is what we used to have to, in the church. It's always, well, I don't know. We didn't call our women sister. All the men were brother whatever, brother Waddell, brother Craig, brother Andy, but I don't think we called our women sister like some churches do. You're on mute. Oh, say it again.
Miss Virginia is probably what I heard the most.
Yeah. Okay. And I mean, we grew up in the same church, so I know the message that you received, but y'all left and went somewhere else.
Yeah, we left when I was in 5th grade. Small, funny little story. So she was the church organist, but the Baptist church wanted her to also start playing for the 8:30 service, and they weren't going to increase her pay. So she got a new job at the Methodist church.
Smart lady.
Methodists.
Do you feel like that, because the Methodists are typically more progressive and affirming towards the queer community? Do you feel like that helped your coming out story?
No, not necessarily. I mean, I would definitely say the Methodists are much, compared to Baptists, in my opinion, are much more progressive, but they definitely still have their conservative views.
Yeah.
The sermons are a little less like, don't do this, don't do that, and a little more like, here's how we love each other, and here's how we love God. And it's a little more, like that, which I kind of liked at the time.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it really helped my coming out story, because it was a pretty rough coming out. I would say, like, my dad it was a freshman year of college. My dad had like just had a massive stroke. And then so he was in the hospital for like a half a year. And like 5 months after he had a stroke was when my mom found out I was gay, because I didn't know how to clear my history on the internet.
Oh, rookie move.
Yeah, I know, my fault. Whoops. And so like that was pretty rough. She did not handle it very well. The beginning, we didn't talk about it for a good half a year. And then it just like slowly from there, like she started talking to like some of her friends and meeting other people and whatever. And like, we're in a really great place now. She's constantly asking me like when I'm gonna bring somebody home and all this stuff. So like it's been a full 180. So that's been good. But
yeah. That's good. But we'll get to that in a bit, because I still think that even if our parents are in a great place now, there's still some trauma associated with our early coming out stories that I think are worth discussing as well. Austin, our baby,
Hello.
your parents are pastors.
Yes, my parents are full-blown pastors. They're currently building a new church in Decatur right now and everything. The pulpit congregation, everything is growing and flourishing for them.
I'm happy to hear that for them. Are they, or is their congregation affirming?
Um, that that's up in the air. You know, I would say that's up in the air. I definitely think that it plays off of like, you know, your leaders. And I wouldn't say that I would actually know so much because I actually have only been there a select few of times. So growing up, my parents were still underneath like other pastors. And so we would have spent like, honestly, I went to church probably Sunday, Monday. There was intercessory prayer on Tuesday, Wednesday, Bible study, Saturday morning, corporate prayer. So I would have been in the church a lot more as I was growing up. And then once I kind of went off to college, I kind of started just doing my own thing and allowed my parents to kind of grow in their faith and to grow with that. But that was for them. And I've kind of been my own person.
Yeah. You mentioned a bit ago, them being underneath a couple pastors, and there's a, my mind immediately went to, there's been a couple pastors that I've been under, or I wanted to be under, over my upbringing that I still like look back in lust and I'm like, that was daddy. I won't throw any names out there, but there's a couple I'm thinking of that I remember just being like, oh, y'all fine. Oh, Lord. So let's get to the place of, I know kind of all of your church upbringingness, but where was it that you started to think this, not just to the idea that this is against my very nature of being gay, but like, where did you start to see yourself disassociating from the message that you were receiving as a kid, Kirk?
Yeah, I would say it was really more so on the
after you wrote that paper, I assume.
No, it was way before that, because, you know, with the Church of Christ being so conservative, some of the things that they said were true, you're just like, what? Like, what do you mean we can't clap our hands along with the song? Like things like that.
Well, it's because it's a pretty white congregation, and we know that they're going to clap on the wrong beat,
or at least on 1 and 3. You know, the thing about I can't hate on the music there because I learned to sing there, if anything. But what's funny too is that being a person who loved music so much, I wanted to, like, you know, it was natural for me to do that. And then for them to come and say, no, that's not the right way to do it. It's like, okay, come on, stop trying to tell me that 2 + 2 is 5, because this doesn't make sense. Like anybody could use that. And, you know, from there, that just got me questioning as to why. And then if I would run up against something else, I want to go figure this out, because you just use your logic. And when it came to my sexuality, it was kind of the same thing as you mentioned earlier, that I had this idea in my head that if I were a better person, right? If I were, as we would have said back then, like more on fire for God, or, you know, if I was at my highest self in that sense, that it would be taken care of, that like sin or that desire would just evaporate and go away. And
how's
that wasn't the case either.
How's that working out for you?
No, I got over that about 10 years ago now.
Yeah.
So, yep.
And go ahead.
Go ahead. I was gonna say, but with that too, you know, I had got to a point in college where I really was trying to do that and live that way, and I just kept finding myself dealing with the same feelings, you know, like, and wanting the same thing. Like there were girls that I dated and it was cool but it wasn't how I wanted to. It didn't feel right to me,
right?
You know? And that's kind of how it always has been. It's just like, okay, well, if something doesn't feel right, then there's a reason for it.
Yep.
And instead of just sitting with, well, they say that that's what it's supposed to be, though. No, it's not our duty just to listen to people. If the voice inside of you is telling you that this doesn't feel right, then go investigate that.
Yep. There's such a judgment and a shame around accepting the primal nature of humanity in Christianity. And we're taught so much to squash down that voice of primal instinct. But you're right. Like if it's there and you're of a faith, would you not assume that it's there because of the creator? So why are you telling me to squash this feeling that supposedly your creator provided? Doesn't make any sense at all. John, for you, it's the opposite question. You did not grow up in church. So like, do you feel like you came to a place ever where you were thinking like, am I missing out on something? Would it serve me to be a part of a community?
Yeah, definitely. In high school, I wanted to, middle school and high school, I kind of started to question, like, should I be going to church? But it would have never have been for the right reasons. It would have always been for, I want to have more friends than what I do.
Yeah.
So it would have never been for the right reasons. And I see that now looking back at it. So no, I don't think that I trying to bring it back to the question. No, I don't think that I would have gone. I don't think I would have gone and enjoyed it, gotten the message that I should have received from it. I don't think it would have worked out for me.
Yeah. Mike, what about you? Because I know you to be hyper intelligent. So I assume that early on is when you started kind of experiencing questions about your faith.
Actually, I don't know that I ever really did until I actually got to college. It was before I remember sitting in ninth grade at Decatur Heritage and realizing that I was gay. It was actually in Miss Holland's class.
Mm-hmm.
It was just like a random, like all of a sudden it just kind of clicked for me. And I went from that to when I graduated, and then I went to college. I remember sitting in a biology class, and the first day the professor like hadn't even started the syllabus. She introduced herself and she was like, in this class, we're going to treat evolution as a fact. There's going to be no debate about it, no questions. We're not here to talk about anything like that. If you have any questions or anything like that, you can come to my office hours, but we're not here to debate topics like that in this class. And so I remember having gone to small conservative churches my entire life, and then going to Decatur Heritage. I had grown up very creationist, and so I had no idea anything about evolution. And I was like, well, I'm going to need to know what she's going to say, and if she's going to treat this as fact, I need to know exactly what it is so that I can be able to pass this class. And so that's kind of what started me on that. And I remember spending hours and hours and hours on YouTube rabbit trails of evolution versus creationism, creationist answers to evolution challenges, vice versa. And then from there, it just kind of like, as things started falling apart for creationism, that kind of preempted me got me on my deconversion journey.
Yep.
And from there, I went from that to watching atheist versus Christian debate, and just the whole deconversion right there. I started reading like Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens, and yeah, that was not a good time in this household.
I would imagine so. My gosh.
Yeah.
Do you know I only know him from Instagram, but his Instagram handle is called the Naked Pastor, and he is someone who is I call him the master of deconversion because he does it through art. But he has a meme or a cartoon that he drew, and it's basically like a graph that the deeper you are in Christianity, the greater you have to deconvert. So the graph has this like upwards trajectory arrow to signify the deeper you are, the harder it's going to be, or the more work you have to do to deconvert. I did not explain it well at all, but I'll send it to you. It's a really simple, like great piece of art. He's going to be on the show in a couple of weeks to talk about his healing through art. But yeah, look him up. He's really great. Andrew, what was it for you? I mean, I feel like going from Baptist to Methodist is like the first step of deconverting, because the Methodists are a bit more progressive, even in the South. But
yeah, I mean, for me, it was like 3 stages. Like in high school, I kind of like started figuring out what was going on with me around like 9th and 10th grade. But like I spent those like first 3 years of high school being like, I'm not gay. I can't do this. Please don't, like gay is wrong. Please don't let me be gay, blah, blah, blah. And then I got to my senior year and I just got really tired.
Yeah.
Just got really tired of like fretting over it. And I was just like, I'm not doing anything wrong. And so then that kind of like got me into like my second phase, which is more of like, I'm still a believer. I still go to church. I don't think being gay is a sin. I don't think being gay is wrong. That I'm not going to hell because I'm gay. Like that's kind of where I got. And like, even up until, so I moved to Chicago when I was 30. So even up to then, I was like still somewhat going to church, but it really was more of like I know I need to do this so I don't go to hell type thing, as opposed to like building a relationship with Christ, you know what I mean? And I was like, that's not the right reason. And so kind of like Mike said, I started, when I got here, I started like watching more like atheist Christian debates, like Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens. Like I watched them as well, and I was like, this makes a lot more sense to me than what I've been like taught. And you know, like I think me knowing certain things about being gay, like I know that I didn't choose to be gay. I know I'm not like, you know, hurting people unless it's consensual. I'm not doing, you know, and like
on the next episode, we're going to talk about the hanky code so that everyone knows what the different kinks are, Andrew.
So it's just like, for me, it's like all of these things I'm seeing being like taught and whatever. I was like, that's not right. Like, that's not correct, you know? And like all these people that are teaching these things are like not gay people. You know, they're people, or they're like extremely closeted homophobes or whatever. So it just made me start, I was just like, it was like a big domino effect for me. It was like, well, if this is wrong, what else is wrong? And, you know, like, you know, so yeah, that's kind of just like where I'm at now. I will say, I think growing up in like the South and in Decatur, especially, like there is definitely still remnants of like I say, I'm not a believer, but I'm also in the back of my head, like, what if I'm wrong? You know what I mean?
Sure. Well, and thank you for being that vulnerable, because I feel like that's when it's ingrained in you at such a young age. I mean, that what you're taught as a kid remains a bit of scripture throughout your life. So I think we all have that fear to a point, and I think it's about elevating the other voice in our head of justifying the love, the desire for peace, the philanthropy, which are the actual tenets of Christianity, if we're going to really get down to it. But I love that you mentioned that, because I hope that people hear that what they're telling us as kids continues to traumatize us as adults. I mean, like the abuse doesn't stop when we leave the house.
Oh yeah, it's very true. Yeah, that I mean, it's still to this day like very hard to like somewhat shake off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. Like one thing that really stuck with me, I'll make this fast. One thing that really stuck with me is it might have been Christopher Hitchens that mentioned it, was just like, you were born Christian because you were born, or you were brought up Christian because you were born in like the South of America. Not South America, but the South of the United States. And so it's like, but if we had been born in like India, we probably would have been brought up Hindu. So it's just like, because I was born here, that means I'm going to heaven. Like, it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. Yep. And it was just like, you know, there's people probably all over the world who are never going to hear about Christianity their whole life. Lucky. Do they go to hell? It just does, like, it just starts making not a lot of sense to me. And I'm just like, ugh. So I have a lot more questions than I do, like, you know, feeling great about it all. So.
No, totally. And I think that's normal. The more that we know, the less we know. Like the more we learn, the more questions we have. Okay, well, what about, you said that too. Like one of my things that was that never made sense to me was the idea of babies. So in addition to what you mentioned about people who never heard what they call the gospel, they're off the hook because they didn't have a chance to know Christ. And then there's babies. And what if they die before they get saved? And in the Christian faith, or in the Southern Baptist and a few other conservative denominations, when you have your conversion experience, it's called getting saved. But you think about babies, and there's the age of accountability that's never specified in the Bible, first of all. It's just some ethereal number that people of the Christian faith say to make themselves feel better about babies going to heaven versus being sent to hell because they didn't know the gospel. It's so fucked up. God, Austin, what about you? I mean, you're a PK, which is slang for pastor's kid. And you got two pastors as parents. So like you like double the fucked up.
Yes, most definitely. Double the fucked up. It's so interesting. I was just sitting here thinking, and I was like, wow, I've actually never had any of these kind of conversations with my parents or with my siblings. So I'm like, when this airs and they get the chance to watch this, I'm just already thinking like so many different thoughts about that off of playing what he said. But for me, if I'm just being completely honest, I would say early on, I would say around like middle school, I started to really question everything. I'm like, and especially me being like Southern Baptist, Black Baptist, that would have been being in church till 5, 6 o'clock on Sunday sometimes, and people falling out, like speaking in tongues, like heavy, just on the theatrics of the whole thing with the church, and me never really being able to understand that and together with the whole message of, for me, I would say religion was like very fear-based. So it was like, if you aren't doing these things, like you are not happy. No matter how happy in life you think you are, you really are not happy unless you are fully dedicated to Christ.
Yep.
And so it was a whole nother world when I like first stepped out, and especially when I first went out of the country and I saw that like all these people that I'd heard about were actually really normal, and they were the ones like that were chill about everything, and none of these things were ever true. It just really made me question everything, and I was never able to really kind of get back on the path that I was on before with that.
Yeah, and you mentioned that fear-based theology. There's so much hypocrisy, especially within evangelism, in the evangelical. I hate that word. I hate it so much I can't even say it. Evangelical sect of Christianity, but they preach this unconditional love with contingency, and they teach you that your belief in God has to come from a fear of hell. It doesn't. None of it makes sense. Do you? And something else you mentioned too that I think it's important to note, which points out more problems with Christianity, is you spoke about the Black Baptist Church, and not that you all can see on this panel, but we have one person of color represented here, and that speaks a lot to my upbringing in the Christian faith. Was so whitewashed and so unappreciative of interracial worship, much less interracial love. We won't even get to that, but worship. I mean, we didn't have a single maybe there were a couple kids who were being fostered in my church that were of color, but aside from that, nobody. My neighborhood, not a one. I mean, it's so detrimental and counterintuitive to the idea of the tenets of Christianity that keep us segregated. It doesn't make any sense to me.
We are from Alabama.
We are from Alabama. I know.
And
even I was telling someone yesterday talking about this episode and how excited I was about it, and how in Decatur and in many small towns in the South, because of the impact of the Civil War, and when the Northerners came down to help, repopulate that part of the country or to keep a hold on things, even in Decatur, Alabama, there is still basically a Mason-Dixon divide in the city. There are two downtowns, one of which was occupied by the Northerners after the Civil War, and to this day still has remnants of Yankeedom. There's the other downtown, which is the original Southern Confederate downtown, and the streets in the north part of Decatur are named for U.S. commanders and captains and lieutenants, and then in the South, the street names are named for Confederate lieutenants, commanders, captains. Wow. To this day in 2021, it's mind-boggling to me. And I remember it's funny too, because Yankees in the South are always noted. It leaves the idea of pride and just becomes, bigotry at some point. Let's get into any times in our upbringings when we experienced hate or bullying or even hate crimes. Kirk, did you ever experience any blatant attack, whether verbal or physical?
No.
Wow.
No.
Not even from your brother?
I wouldn't call it hate crimes. I mean, I was definitely effeminate sometimes, and that would get people to say something. But no. I think that speaks more so to people will talk about you behind your back. They're not going to talk about you to your face.
Oh, yeah. And I think that's the biggest thing that we dealt with probably. And I have just such visual memories of like a basketball coach getting on to somebody for not acting manly enough, while they're in their huddle. I mean, I can remember a guy specifically, and I won't name him, but he was, and I don't even think he's gay, but he just was slightly effeminate. And I remember our coach just getting on to him anytime he had his arms crossed. Put him down. That looks girly, stuff like that. But that sticks with you. I mean, even though I wasn't the one he was targeting, I still felt attacked because I knew that I was probably more effeminate, really, than he was. John, what about you? Did you experience anything growing up? And I feel like you talked a little bit ago about something, but
Yeah, you there?
yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. So after listening to everyone, first, I think I can say that while we all have baggage and trauma of some kind, I think I dodged a bullet by not going to church.
Yeah.
So
right, it came out on the other side for you.
Right. So I think I'm okay with that now. Yeah, no, I remember I was so as Matt and Andrew, you both went to school with me. It was never the best kept secret that I'm gay. It was never the best kept secret. I was mortified to tell anyone, but I really didn't do that well of a job of hiding it. So I have before I got married, my last name was Day. So John Gay is something that is still 20 years later, still very like traumatic because I grew up with that from middle school till graduation. Actually, at graduation, someone called me John Gay. So it was awful. I did not start to really become myself until after high school. And then it was actually through some bullying at work. I worked at a fast food place throughout high school. And it really wasn't until a night where the bullying just got so much that I finally just had a complete breakdown. I got in my car, I pulled out my cell phone, I called my mom, and I said, I'm quitting, I'm coming home. And she's like, baby, what is wrong? And I said, I don't want to talk about it. She said, what is wrong? Does your dad need to come get you? What is going on? I mean, I was just in tears. And I was like, I finally just in my car in the parking lot, I just finally just blurted out, Mom, I'm gay. And that was like the heaviest weight lifted off of me to be able to say that. I didn't really like the circumstances. Like in high school, I had this huge elaborate plan of how I would come out to my parents, and it would be over dinner, and I would say this, and I would have a letter written, and it was going to be this huge thing. And never in a million years thought I would be saying it in a fast food parking lot because of bullying. So that was, the scars of high school have long since healed and I've moved on past it. But thinking about it, I'm still like, damn, okay, I wish that I had more confidence. Looking at Andrew, I never talked to Andrew in high school. We never were in the same circle. We were never in the same clique or group, but I always looked up to him. Because I mean, as a gay, you have gaydar. We knew each other. And I looked up to him. I very much did. I very much looked up to Andrew because he had so many friends. He was in the in crowd. He was the it person. Like he had so many friends, girls, guys. It was just like, I wanted that so bad. So I never got the chance to tell you that, Andrew. I really did. Without even knowing you, I really did look up to you. And I was like, you know what? If he can get through this, I can get through this too.
Yeah. I feel the same way. That's one of the reasons I wanted Andrew on this panel, because I remember Andrew being that for me too. And it wasn't even that like even if you weren't out at the time, you were yourself. I was always hiding mannerisms. I was always hiding behaviors or instincts. And then it was you. It was David Wood. Who else? I think that was about it. And I remember you.
There was Blake Landry.
Blake Landry, who was supposed to be here as well. Yeah, and we'll catch him another time. But people that just were their authentic selves, personality-wise, and I just thought like, oh, to be that free. I mean, but Andrew, even watching your reaction there, you had no idea that you just being yourself made a difference to people.
Well, I mean, I'm glad I could help. I don't know.
No, but that's I think where we the six of us specifically here, that's where we have a chance to help other people by just having this dialogue, even if we're not going out into the streets of Decatur right now, because ain't none of us living there. We'll get to that next. Even just us having voices on social media does things for people. I mean, we get messages all the time from people saying like, I support you. I'm thankful for you. My son might be gay, or, I know somebody who's struggling. What can I do for them? And John, before we move on too, one of the reasons I reached out to you a couple of years on social media, because you and I, we were always around each other in middle school. I think high school, I don't think as much. But like in middle school, I think it was it band or was it Dolphin Island? I forget. But one of the, maybe it was more than 2 years ago, but I remember I had probably not even, because I don't think we were in social media friends. I had not thought about you in probably 20 years. And something in my life triggered a memory of you instantaneously one day. And I had basically a panic attack of shame over how I treated you. And I don't even know, we talked about it on Facebook Messenger years ago, and I forget to what detail you remember it, but we were in a hotel room on some group field trip through the school. And I vividly remember, I mean, when you talked about being called John Gay, I was one of those that called you that. And that's a testament to when, even though I was not out, I knew I was gay. And when you're told that you are so unworthy and so wrong, not only do you believe it, but you perpetuate it by telling others they are so unworthy, that they are so wrong. And so me attempting to make you feel bad was a way to make myself feel better, which is that's common sense of how bullying works. But I remember in that hotel room, we would not even let you sleep in the bed. We made you sleep on the floor on a fucking phone book. I'll never forget it. And that. John, I couldn't tell you who was in the room. It could have just been me and you.
I remember I remember the apology, and I still, thank you. That then and now means a lot. But I did not. I immediately now remember that trip. That was a band trip that we took to Orlando, and oh my God, that was such a fucking miserable trip. I remember that now. Oh my God, now I'm gonna have to find my therapist's number.
I will
Thanks,
say,
Matt. Your podcast for healing and growth has now brought up traumatic memories. No, I mean
at least it was an Orlando phone book and not like a Decatur phone book, because Orlando is a bigger city, so at least it was a little thicker and like a better pillow.
Yeah, but no, I remember someone I had finally fallen asleep and someone put shaving cream in my hand. And I remember waking up to a face full of shaving cream. I don't remember who did that. I'm trying to remember who was in that room, and I cannot remember.
If you recall, and if I recall, like I would love to reach out to them, because I would hope that they have evolved and grown to a place of being ashamed of that. And if not, I'm ready to make some calls and make some visits.
I'll have to go. I know I'm a hoarder, so I actually still have all of my yearbooks from kindergarten to high school. So I will, if I ever, they're in my storage unit somewhere. So if I ever come across them, I will go back and try to remember that.
Yeah. Well, I'm thankful you accepted the apology, because it truly wrecked me.
Oh yeah, I mean, Matt, we were young and dumb, and I've said things to people, and while young and dumb is not always a good excuse, we weren't sure of who we were, and like you said, it was you perpetuating something on me, because again, it was never a state secret that I was gay. I never admitted it to anybody. I never said it to anybody, but it was just, I was so overly feminine that it was just a given. So it was, to say we were young and dumb, we were young and dumb. It happened.
Yeah. Well, I'm thankful that it didn't stop you from succeeding and, and finding a partner and just experiencing happiness. I'm so thankful that you were stronger than that. That's the blessing, I think. Mike, did you ever experience any kind of hate growing up or bullying?
No, not for being gay or anything like that. Just, but I also never really, I was always just kind of very muted. I kept myself, or I tried to guard like my actions and everything to make sure that I didn't bring that on myself.
Sure. So that's wow. Do you feel like it kept you having a desire to stay muted to protect yourself? Do you feel like that kept you from from being your most authentic self? Like maybe you were not truly yourself until later in life, or like maybe you're.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Once I started dating and just kind of actually putting myself into that environment and reading gay books or watching anything with, where gay people are portrayed in a positive light, that really started like allowing me to be who I am, be my authentic self.
Mm-hmm. I tell you what, that brings to memory something. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but I used to crave watching Will and Grace growing up because it was the only place where I had a gay role model who seemed to enjoy life and to not be put down. And that show, I think, I mean, it doesn't age that well sometimes with how they treat our community. But at the time, that visibility and representation was everything to me. And I remember being home in between semesters at college or, whatever. And I would be watching in the back den. And if I heard footsteps through the kitchen coming in, I would have, on the old school remote controls, how you would have like Last Channel or something. So I'd have it on like, the Christian Broadcast Network or something really blatantly obvious.
I love that we're all nodding our heads.
I know. Yeah, I know. We're like, oh yeah. You're right.
It was Will and Grace and Queer as Folk.
Oh, see, we didn't have cable. We were poor.
I wasn't allowed to watch Will and Grace.
No, me neither.
Yeah,
That's why I was always
about it.
changing the channel. But it's funny because Queer as Folk, one of the writers is actually one of my really good friends now. And I tell him how like I had to, also watch that show in secret later on in life around my straight friends because I still wasn't out. And now they're doing a reboot of Queer as Folk, and I'm excited for that. But it's when my parents were visiting a couple months ago. The complete circle of healing happened because where I used to change the channel from Will and Grace when they would enter the room, we all sat down and watched Schitt's Creek together. And it was such a subtle thing, but you could tell with all three of us, this was a moment of healing. We were enjoying this family that has a queer element. And to watch, and I remember at one point, David, I'm a little uptight in type A. And so was David on Schitt's Creek. And he did or said something. And my dad looked to my mom and said, "Who's that remind you of?" And I thought, but he said it in a way of loving it about him. And that to me was his way of saying, "Son, you're okay." It was such a beautiful moment. Andrew, what about you? Any moments of trauma growing up that come to light?
I mean, I wasn't necessarily bullied.
But you were also in the marching band. You were around a creative group.
I was in very much like the artsy fartsy, scene. So like, it was like okay to be. And I always thought it's funny you say like I was being my authentic self. Like I just always like to make people laugh, and I always like to just be funny and silly and like in a weird. It's not that I was consciously being funny and silly to mask being gay. It's just like, I think that was maybe how some people didn't know, but like gay people knew, you know what I mean? Like people that were like, I know. And so I think that really helped. I do remember specifically in middle school though, my PE teacher, it was Coach Story. I like had to run out to get a ball or something. We were all like on the perimeter and I like ran out to like set a ball down or something. And I quickly turned around and he was like prancing behind me. And I was like, oh, okay. And I would like laugh about stuff like that, but I'm just like, are you serious? But it's okay because he got fired because he was looking at porn at school. So I'm not. Yeah, like I said, I think the groups of people and like the areas, like I did theater and like band and like it was, I guess, a little bit more of a safer space, not completely safe. Because I mean, I definitely, like to John's point, I definitely saw the bullying happening to John. And I have the worst memory in the world. So if I ever contributed to any of that, I also apologize. But I mean, I do remember when you said John Gay, I was like, oh, I forgot that was a thing. So, I mean, it wasn't like the safest of spaces as it could be. And yeah, I don't know. And then when I got to college, I went to Tuscaloosa, Alabama. So I was still in the South, but I just really like surrounded myself by like just tons of gay people. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I still struggle to this day, like being around a bunch of straight people. I was like, I don't know what to do.
I know. That's like when I go to like I don't go out much, but in West Hollywood, there's a lot of like straight girls that come out because it's they feel safer there around a bunch of gay guys. But then in Palm Springs, also, it's just nothing but bridal parties. And Palm Springs is like a gay heaven. And I'm always like, y'all, you have every other fucking spot in the country. Please leave our neighborhoods alone. Like, this is our territory. Austin, what about you? You're still young. So like do you feel like, you're a later generation than us. So do you feel like your bullying was less noticeable, or maybe it was called out more because of?
I wouldn't say. I would say that I'm like, strangely enough, I would say that I'm right on the same cusp, like as you guys. So like from 95, I feel like that I can almost say I'm like you guys, because it's
90,
close.
90. When I hear people say their birthday it starts at a 9, I'm like,
well, I was in middle school.
God, I know.
Okay. Well, I would say that definitely just because of the environment that I was in, I played sports, I was like class president, I was like very active, involved with everyone, that I did experience like more so like some verbal abuse. I would actually say that the main person who hurt me the most growing up would have been my father. He would have been like very homophobic without even realizing that he was so homophobic. Like, just because as like men, in the Black community, it's like the man is supposed to be the provider. He's supposed to be so tough. And so all of this. So I was always being like reminded to watch the way I bent my hands, or to watch my walk, or the way that I talked. And so I quickly learned that. I quickly mastered how to be somebody else and how to move like somebody else. So I spent majority of my life, until I actually didn't come fully out of the closet until I was about 22. So only 4 years ago. So I spent the most of my life living a complete double life.
Yep.
Like, so.
Which is super common for gay people, especially in that area between the full coming out and the full closeted, when we're kind of exploring those other social circles. And we're like, so you are behaving one way when you go home, and then another way when you go out with your friends. It's so common. How do you feel like, and John, I'll ask a different question for you, but how do you feel like growing up in the church and constantly being told that your love is not acceptable has informed your ability to love now? And I know two of you, John, you're one of them, but Kurt, you have a man, a fine ass man, I might say. How do you feel like your church experience informed your ability to be open for a lasting, healthy love?
Is that question for me? Exactly.
Well, we'll go back in order again. Kurt, for you,
Kurt.
what was that? How did you feel like that kept you from being able to really commit to love at first?
Yes, not in a backwards, but in an indirect way. I think that love was there, but what ended up happening was, because I knew I wasn't supposed to be feeling these things about other men, was that it became so internalized that it came out in this double life, this like hidden thing that I couldn't talk about with anybody. Right. Mm-hmm. And in that, I developed like a sexuality or a sexual identity that was what a 12-year-old boy who didn't want to tell anybody would be. You know what I mean? Like there wasn't a natural way to express it.
Right.
So like, as far as the vision of like being with somebody and being in love, no, that wasn't tainted, but like my own ability to, and I think this is true in the gay community a lot, how we just over sexualize everything, or like put so much.
Please leave my Instagram out of this.
Oh, just like we put a lot of weight on looks and things of that nature. It's because I think we didn't learn how to deal with it normally as adolescents.
Yep.
So that would be what I would say, is like, it wasn't really a fear-based thing so much as it was like, it just came out indirectly to, I've seen, I should say, in the last few years, like, okay, that's the work that I need to do there.
Yeah. John, what about you? Growing up in a place where church controlled everything, do you feel like it kept you from being able to be open to committed relationships?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I didn't have my first relationship until I was in my 20s, because there was just no way you could do it. Decatur is such a small town. Everybody knows everybody,
Yep.
and everybody knows everyone's business. So there was no dating. There was no meeting anybody. There was no hooking up with anybody, because it was such a small town that if you did something, someone would see you and it would get back to, and it would just domino and snowball into it. So yeah, no, dating, finding someone in Decatur, just even as a friend at that time, was almost near impossible. I mean, we were all closeted. There was no, I love the world. I appreciate the world that kids today are growing up in. I feel so old saying that.
I know.
Because it is so much more accepted. My nephew is 4, and he's going to grow up seeing a loving, committed couple as his uncles together. My niece will see that, and this is all normalized to them.
I know.
Us growing up, we had only Will and Grace and Queer as Folk to show, and Will and Grace was one type of show, and then Queer as Folk was the complete opposite. We didn't have a way of being able to show what a real loving, true relationship was.
Yep. And that's a major problem, to not have that visibility and representation to see, oh, this is achievable. Mike, what about you?
Yeah.
I don't think it did. I mean, I meant to bring this up in the last question, but actually for the longest time, the only person that I knew was gay was actually you, Matt.
Oh God.
Because I remember something happened like with Elizabeth, or like you.
Elizabeth's your sister.
She had heard she heard a rumor about you, and she messaged you, and you sent back, you were something like, yeah, this is who I am, but I'm never going to act on it. So I think for a long time, like, that was like my conception.
When did I send that? Like last week?
But yeah, I think that for the longest time, that was like something that kind of informed me, was like, it was something that you could be, but something that you shouldn't necessarily do.
Well, you can let her know that I've acted on it, and I act on it well.
I think Elizabeth would be traumatized by that.
Oh my God. But do you feel like when you date now, like you have a healthy approach to seeing like the longevity potential and stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And it's still something I'm working through, is, being comfortable being with someone in public, like holding hands or, doing anything like that. Yeah.
Yep.
I'm still not comfortable doing that.
I know.
Same.
Yeah.
I know.
It still gets my heart going. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still,
especially whenever I'm in Decatur.
I'm still not comfortable seeing it. When I see people like got 2 gay guys holding hands outside, I'm like, oh, y'all, sinful.
I'm the opposite.
You're just bitter and jealous.
I am bitter and jealous. Like, somebody please hold my hand.
No, but I think that speaks to how we grew up. That's the environment that we grew up in. There was no seeing it. And when you did see it, it was so frowned upon. My grandfather would not watch Ellen because she's a lesbian.
Yep.
He censored the movies he watched because it was just not something we saw or was accepted.
Yep. This may be TMI, but did you guys remember that like Columbia House video membership back in the day, where you got like 12 VHSs for a penny, and then you were committed for life to order millions? I remember ordering, I'm sure I lied about my birth date or something, but I ordered American History X because I heard that there were naked guys in it. And I was probably like 16 years old. And the naked guys in it are like raping each other in prison, okay? It's not a healthy sex scene to look at. We were just so desperate for any visibility that, like, wherever we could find it, we would latch on to it. Andrew, what about you? What is it like for you dating and believing in love and stuff?
Oh, I was going to tack on to the watching American History X. I would watch Oz on HBO.
Oh, come on. Daddy Maloney?
What kind of show is this?
Yeah. Sorry. Well, I was gonna say for me dating, for me personally, I wouldn't say it had like a negative effect, but in my early 20s, there were two guys that I dated back to back that they both dumped me because they didn't want to be gay anymore. And they were like religious reasons. Like the first one was my first like long-term boyfriend. And I was like 21, hopeless romantic. Like when you're like that young, you're like, I have to hold on to whoever will have me or I will die alone. Like that's very much where I was.
I'm still there. That's how I am now.
And so we dated about a year and a half. And in that time, he went in and out of the closet 7 times. And then like the last time he was like, no, I can't do this anymore. Cut to him like fully marrying a man like 7 years ago. And like, of course he's gay. And then the guy I dated right after him broke up with me for the same reason, cut to him being married to a man. And so like that was a little traumatic. And I think that the reaction of like those things definitely made me a little jaded, I guess. And then like some other relationships after that have nothing to do with like Christianity or anything. But yeah, that was just like a really rough beginning to the dating scene. And I think it was because of like their conflicts with like their religion and whatnot. Like I had already gotten over it and I was already like fully okay being gay. And so like, but I mean, it still like lingered in and had indirect effects on me. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Austin, what about you?
Yeah, I would say it's very similar that dating growing up, that it wouldn't have been healthy at all, especially like just looking back and thinking about all the disgusting men and people that I messed with in the 256 area just because I wanted to have like some kind of like worth. I'm like, oh. But definitely now, the older that I get and now being in a healthy relationship at the moment, just seeing how far that I've come, I definitely know now that I am capable of love and giving love and knowing what it is that I want and to give that as well.
And the biggest thing too, I think, because it's not just that like we were told that our love's not worthy, but it's our desire to please our parents, please our families, please God was so prevalent. I remember the first time that I felt like I had a love that God would accept back when I was still trying to cling on to my faith was when I was singing on cruise ships and I met this Brazilian dancer. And that's been a series of stories.
Yes.
Oh,
That's good.
It was. Anyway, but I remember when we really fell into that love, I remember being able to picture myself at an altar and making a promise before the divine to love this man forever. And in that vision I had, I thought, oh, like God, I feel like God approves this love. This must be normal. And that was in my mid 20s or late 20s, still dealing with that. So I just find it fascinating that our view of love comes from this place of feeling like we need to be loved by the divine. And I hope that we, as a community of queer men, gay men who've come from religion, that we are able to leave that behind, if for nothing else than to produce healthy, sustainable relationships. Because otherwise our trauma is just going to keep following us. What's your first sexual experience with a man, Kirk?
Well, speaking of 256,
I was going to ask if we knew who it was.
Well, I'm not going to do names. We're not going to do that one.
Yeah.
No, I have 2 stories here. Not even stories, but just situations where the first really was with like friends who are now married and off doing their own thing, but questionable. You know, they like the spend the night parties or the things like that, the wandering hands, I'll just say that much. And then the really like the first one, like lost my virginity, was in the back of my Jeep when I was home from college one time.
That's hot. with someone from Decatur.
Yeah.
And that person's not on this podcast.
They're not on this podcast.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure. John, what about you?
They might have been
Oh.
a good person to be on the podcast, though. Now I'm thinking about it.
We'll talk later.
That would have been weird, though. So never mind.
Oh God. Okay. So if we're gonna be honest, if we're among family, so my best friend and I have been friends for 34 years. He lives in South Florida now. 12 or 13.
Oops.
Just not like
Wow.
I didn't lose my virginity until my
Oh.
20s, but there were definitely, I mean, depending upon your definition of virginity.
Mhm.
Yeah, 12 or 13.
Wow. Mike, what about you? What was your first sexual experience like?
It was kind of boring, I guess, but it was just like in my first relationship when I was 19. You know, just
You're such a good
That's
Christian.
romantic. That's not
Yeah.
That's very,
So
that's normal.
yeah.
Okay. Andrew, what about you?
Are we talking like big boy sex or just like sexual?
That sounds like depending
What-
upon your definition.
Right.
That's like you
What-
can have
Right,
two
what's-
situations.
What's
You
the
can have
most
one,
what's the
two.
most salacious?
Oh, so not the first one, just the most.
What's the first one?
Okay, we'll go with the first one. It was also kind of boring. I mean, I can tell the salacious one because that one's better. But the first one was like my very first boyfriend in college, and like I slept over at his house, and the next morning, you know, he went downtown, and I was like, "Oh, this is really happening! I've never had that before. Yay, this is fun!" And so like it was that, and then we broke up like 2 weeks later. But whatever.
Oh,
Yeah,
the one that got away.
you know, he's still in Alabama. He lives in Eufaula. So
Eufaula. Oh my gosh, I've not thought about that town in ages.
mhm.
What was the big boy one?
Oh, well, so like me, so okay. Well, what I consider virginity is big boy sex, which is
Butt sex.
Butt sex.
Right.
Sex. So I was actually like like I said, a hopeless romantic, and I wanted to lose it to like the one, and it'd be real special, blah blah blah. So I didn't have like butt sex till I was 24, and I kind of like, I mean, I had my fair share before that of non-big boy sex, but yeah, I lost it on an air mattress, and we used lotion as lube, and it was fine. But it was, I mean, honestly, he had a great like utility to begin the journey. You know what I'm saying? It was not a science project. It was not a science project, and so I was like, you know what? I'm glad I'm starting with this.
Yes. For those of you that aren't picking up on the cues, what he's saying is that he wasn't packing much, so it was a nice.
Yeah. But he was really hot. He was really sweet, and I don't regret it at all.
That's good. Austin, what about you? What about you?
Yeah, mine actually goes perfect with the podcast. Mine was I was about 15, I believe, and I was actually at D Now. If you guys know Devotional Now.
No, it's Disciple Now. It's called
Oh,
Disciple
Disciple Now. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Sorry. Excuse me. Disciple Now, and my two of my friends had got my phone, and I had literally been on MySpace looking at naked guys, and they confronted me about it. And then later on that night, you know, at D Now, you all share like beds and all
I'm
of
aware.
that. And one of my friends woke me up in the middle of my sleep, and I had never kissed a guy, I had never done anything. And we did big boy, big grown men, sex, everything for the next 3 days over. You know,
He said you're gonna get some D now.
yeah, literally, we put the D in D Now.
Oh my God, that is so hot.
Yeah.
Yes, mine was.
Wait, it's the one that found it on your phone that like came and woke you up.
Yes, that is.
Ooh.
If that is not divine intervention, I don't know what is.
Like, it lasted for 10 years. Toxic, but woo. But
Well,
yeah.
I get that. Where are your thoughts now with spirituality? What do you believe now, Kirk?
That is a really quick turn. You just
I know.
Okay. Well,
Because you've been a big part of educating me with other belief systems, and I have a couple books sitting on my desk right now that I have because of you. So I know that you have a loaded answer to this.
well, you know, I would say that it's something that I think about a lot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of really when I said a while ago of like from the clapping of hands is supposedly wrong, you could just always find an answer that made sense.
Mm-hmm.
And so with spirituality, I just always felt like I can find an answer that makes sense because people are spiritual people. Like there's a part of me I know that exists that is not just my physical self. And so, especially over the last year and a half with the pandemic and just having more time to read and think and like meditate and things like that. Yeah, I would say I'm a spiritual person in the sense that I know that I can see who I am in each of you
Mm-hmm.
because we're
Mhm.
all alive. We're all people. We're all humans. We're all experiencing the same kinds of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
We can experience love and joy and peace and the fruits of the spirit, right? And those I know to be good things no matter the circumstance. There's never a bad time to love somebody or a bad time to be joyful. And if I can pick those things and meditate on those things and become those things, then I don't have anything to fear because I'm living. Like we can all tap into that channel as well.
Yeah.
So taking the time to really become that in everything that I do, and not in the overwhelming sense of I have to be all of these things, but just am I being that to each person I encounter?
Sure. That's I see the divine similarly, I think. Where I'm seeing God now, or whatever God is in the connection between people, in the space between people. And I think about that verse in the Bible that talks about how where two or more are gathered, there I am also. And that's where, and so even with the idea of sex, where I used to see sex as this sinful, evil, vile act between two men, I actually now see it as a potential form of worship to the divine, or at least a celebration of the divine by connecting with one another. In that same regard, that's also where I'm seeing the devil in the space between people, and in how people treat one another, and how, you know, you look at the past year alone of how people have been treated. And so that's where I'm struggling now, is in that space where I'm seeing the divine, I also see the opposite of the divine. And that worries me. But when the person I had on my episode last week, the Reverend Denise Barnes, I said that to her, and she says, well, maybe you should be the God in that space where it doesn't exist. And I was like, oh, fuck. Okay. That's a challenge. I see what you're saying. Well done. Well played, Rev.
Yep. Well, and when we see those moments of like a bad connection, as you would say, that's just us putting me in front of us.
Mm-hmm.
Right? These conflicts exist when we don't see ourselves in each other. When we're saying, but I'm this and you're that.
Work, Kirk. Okay, yes. Yes.
The Republican platform.
Right. Well, that's the next episode. John, what about you? Where, not growing up in the church, where is your mindset now with spirituality?
God, do I have to follow Kirk? Because that was beautiful. I even have it written down in my notes.
I know.
Never a bad time to love somebody, because I thought that was beautiful.
Yeah.
I don't know. I still think that it's one of those. I'm 36 years old and I've never publicly admitted my age. I am 36 years old. I am still at this point where I am still trying to figure it out. I believe in a higher power. I believe that God exists. I believe, but I don't know in what form. Like spiritually, is it one person? Is it many persons, people? I just believe that, you know, I'm here for a reason. My end game is to be a good person, to love people, to respect my elders, to not steal, to just live life the best that I can with the circumstances that I'm given. You know, there's it's a really loaded question. I believe in God. I don't know in what form. I see all of this good that happens in the world, but then when you wake up and see, your headlines are this many people died today, and this has happened here, and this has happened there, you start to question more and more. I'm a news junkie. I love to read the news, love to watch the news. And the more I do that, I kind of almost start to feel a disconnect a little bit. And then I have to remind myself, there are good things, there are amazing things that happen. And for every one good thing, there's got to be two, or for every one good thing, there's got to be a bad thing, because it's got to have a balance. So I'm still struggling with that answer.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that honesty. I think that's why this podcast exists for me, is because I feel like this is a lifelong pursuit of answers and experience. Mike, what about you? Where's your headspace with spirituality now?
I don't really consider myself spiritual. I don't anything like that. So I see this life that we have as like the only chance we have. There's nothing after that. Once we're dead, we're dead. That's kind of how I view it. And so when it comes to it forces me to make the most of the opportunities I'm given while I'm here on a daily basis.
Yep.
And so when it comes to, in like 2015, 2016, I started getting more politically active. And so, the last 4 or 5 years have been pretty rough. And then, just kind of starting to see, going back to what Kirk said, where the conflict comes is when you fail to see yourself and other people. And so when you go to, when I have watched like the pandemic, the failure to put masks on because it inconveniences me. Well, that, it's not about you. It's about protecting everyone around you from what you could be carrying. And it's the same thing going back to like the vaccinations now. And so stuff like that. And so it's forced me to try to be more positive, as hard as it can be sometimes, and try to, one of the things I try to do is try to lead with love, and always try to be nice, but never fail to be kind. And that's a struggle sometimes, especially when I'm driving, because I have road rage. And
you are from Alabama. There's a 2020 episode about how Alabama is the #1 road rage related deaths in the nation. And I'm proud of that.
Really?
Yeah.
I can believe that.
Yeah.
I definitely believe that.
I really would have thought it was Atlanta though.
Nope.
But yeah, just that's where I'm at. And especially like with, even go back to the racial justice marches going on last year, that led to like an opportunity for me to grow and to learn about things that I had never really been exposed to prior to that. And it was almost embarrassing how little I knew until it was like in your face. Yeah. And just everything. And so it led me to do like a lot of reading and just a lot of listening on people's experiences. Like I want them to do with me is to understand where I'm coming from, who I am, to listen to my story, not just flagrantly disregard it.
Yeah. And that's an important lesson, I think, too, for all of us, is that we're asking this community of believers to have grace for us and our existence. And in that, we have to allow a bit of space of grace as well for their own rate of evolvement. Now, it doesn't let them off the hook, right, but we do have to keep that in mind of, we're actively fighting to present ourselves as valid and worthy just to exist in this nation. And so in speaking our truths, like in this episode, hopefully people's hearts and minds are open enough to accept that, and we'll see that change. Andrew, what about you? Where's your mind with spirituality now? We touched on it a little bit, but.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm pretty open to hearing anything. It doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to believe what I'm hearing, mm-hmm. But I'm definitely not like just shutting people out because they have a different point of view than me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just like, I think as humans, we need to know why certain things are happening or whatever. And like, I just feel like there's going to be many, many things that we will never have answers for. Yeah. And I feel like as the older I get, the more I'm just like, I'm okay with that kind of.
Yep.
I think I would rather be for me, I'd rather be honest, just being like, I'm not going to know that, as opposed to trying to fill it in with something, you know what I mean? Something that like, I'm like, I don't, specifically like Christianity being brought up like that. I was like, the more older I'm like, I can't fill up these gaps with like those stories.
Well, I don't think our minds even have the capacity to know the answers in this lifetime. You know, like I don't think we're designed that way. Maybe, excuse me, at the end of evolution, but like we ain't gonna be around for that, you know. And there is no end to evolution, in theory. But you know, you were saying about being open to anything. I always say that, look, I used to believe in Jesus. I'll believe any fucking thing you throw at me. So I think in my own religious studies, like I love hearing what other people profess, because like I get it. I used to believe that a man literally walked on water and like came out of that tomb looking different, you know?
I also like, one thing for me too, the older I get, is I really try to my best to separate like organized religion and just like what they're teaching, because like, I think organized religion is a cancer. I said it.
It's to blame for every problem in the world.
Yeah. So, but that doesn't mean like, you know, if you did believe in Jesus, that doesn't mean like Jesus is bad.
Right.
Just by the people that are organizing it to, you know, whatever. So, yeah. So I definitely tried to separate that. Try to be like, when I was talking about my 3 stages, like that middle stage where I was like, oh, I still go to church and I still believe. Like I was really trying my best to be like, if the church is doing something sketchy, like let's try to ignore that. And you know, but then I don't know.
Yeah. Austin, I want to catch you before you finish that bottle of wine. Where's your mind on spirituality now? Y'all can't see this, but Austin's just been tossing back that wine throughout.
I'm just soaking in all of the knowledge and all the perspectives, you know, just while having a wine. But I would say that I'm somewhere in between Andrew and Kirk, you know, both on both stand sides. I don't necessarily know that, like for me, like spirituality is kind of like, I see myself as a spiritual being, and I see that in so many different religions, there's this underlining kind of same message, you know, and that's kind of what I take. And I think it's kind of the same principle of love that a lot of people have said that they follow and everything. So to that extent, I do believe that I am spiritual, and that spirituality for me is, like I said, it's a mindset. It's like a way of being. And so if it's for good and it's for an advancement, that's kind of where I want to be, and that's where I'm going. So I don't necessarily have the exact answer as to what spirituality means to me. Am I a spiritual person? I would say based off of everybody else's definition of it, yes.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. Like, you can believe whatever you want to believe as long as it doesn't come at my expense. If what you believe impedes on my right to live and to be happy, then your belief system is null and void. Sorry about your nuggets.
Well, and what people don't understand is that if you believe something that is at someone else's expense and you're calling that thing love or joy or whatever you want to call it, then it's not that thing.
Yep.
Right. And that's when they get mad and say, well, I can't judge, like that's just what I believe. That's what I've been. Well, I'm telling you the truth as a friend, as a whatever, that what you think you believe is not true. And that's where I've gotten to the point with my family and my parents that like, stop calling that love, because that's not love. Like, and I don't care how you try to spin it. Right. Yeah. We have to really try to figure out what it is. Like you have to think about it. You have to pray for it. You have to ask about it. It's not just going to come to you. You have to
actively search.
You got to shed talking about like other religions. One thing that I really hold on to is that any suffering you have, any unhappiness you have, just comes from an attachment that you have, right? Being attached to this end goal of, well, it's supposed to be this. Well, who says it's supposed to be that? Me. Exactly. Right. And when I trust and say, okay, well, I'm showing up and doing the work, and I know that I'm trying to do the right thing, then I just walk.
Yeah.
Right. And I put one foot in front of the other, knowing that it will guide me, instead of having my eyes way too far ahead of me and thinking, well, it's going to end this way.
Sure.
If I just take the time every day to get right, then I can walk out the door and there's nothing to be scared of. Because whatever happens is supposed to happen for me that day.
Okay, Brother Kirk, I hear you. So to tie up this episode, and again, I thank you guys. We've gone well over an hour, and I may split this in two parts. I'll see you later. It's been such a valuable conversation to me to hear where you are in life, and to see how well we all are doing as gay men. If you had told us when we were kids that we would have lives of value, that we would be alive, period. We didn't even get into if any of us have had suicide attempts. But I'm just so thankful that you've had this conversation with me. We're going to go backwards for this last question, and this is a short answer. In one phrase, can you tell me if your view of the divine were standing before you at this moment, what would you say to them? Austin, you go first.
All right. My question would be why?
I didn't say question. If you could say something to
them. I would just be thankful for just the fact of being like chosen to just be able to experience this life and all that it has to offer. Show a sign of gratitude.
Sure. Andrew, what about you?
Well, mine would be very specific to like what's going on with me and my family. And I would basically say, give my mom a break, is essentially what I would say. Like, she needs a break. Give her some peace. So that'd be what I'd say.
I will be sending her some light. I know what you mean. And I love that honesty. Mike, what about you?
I think I don't necessarily believe in the divine, but I think I'd probably go along something with like Austin and just express gratitude for, making this existence possible and just allowing me to experience it.
Mm-hmm. Well, then what about if you could, if what your family sees as the divine were standing before you right now, what would you say to their interpretation of the divine?
Cussing is allowed?
Yes.
Fuck you, probably.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yes. Yeah.
Because it would go back to, it'd probably do something like what Stephen Fry said, just like, why was all the suffering necessary?
Mm.
Why is bone cancer necessary? Why is childhood cancer necessary? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, why is the suffering necessary for us to get to the divine? That's the whole thing. That's the whole argument that I love.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. We might have to have you back to talk about that. I love that, because I'm gonna do a big old atheist episode too. So I would love to have that conversation. John, what about you? What would you say?
I would say just to piggyback off of what Austin said, I would say thank you, because if it weren't, it's a whole separate debate topic for another day, but I don't know if life is predetermined or if life is a result of your choices. But I would say thank you for leading me through this path and journey that I've been on. I have an amazing husband. He's my soulmate. He is my split apart. He is my other half. And if I hadn't gone through all of the bullshit before that, I would have never gotten to a place where I appreciate all of the blessings that I have in my life right now. And so my first thing would be to say thank you for the bad times that got me to the good.
I love that. Kirk, what about you?
Yes. I would say thank you too, because that's why we're here, I believe, regardless. And talking to the divine, like, it just depends on what kind of picture you have in your head of the divine. But at the end of the day, like, you got to be thankful. And it's never, like we said earlier, it's never wrong to be thankful.
Mm-hmm. You're right. That's my takeaway: is never a bad time to love somebody. Never a bad time to be thankful. Never a bad time to spread and be joyous. Guys, thank you so much again. It's been such a treat. Even though I haven't seen some of you in more than 2 decades, I just feel like such a connection with y'all, and I hope that your stories resonate with them. And a lot of what I do is not just in an attempt to heal my own self, but also to help heal the little gay boys that are still sitting in church pews and being spewed hate and ignorance and intolerance. And all of your voices contribute to that healing and to their being able to get to a place in life like what we are experiencing, which is happiness and joy and love and gratitude. I love you all. Thank you. And I will see you on the flip side. And all the people said, gay men. Thank you all for listening to another episode of the Fagnostic Podcast hosted by me, Matt Hayes. You can find me at matthayes.com, that's MATHAYES.com, or on Just the Millennial socials at Hayes on It, HAYES on It. Please go subscribe, review, and share this podcast. And in the meantime, peace be with all y'all.
Hi, Michael Spicer here. Matt Hayes forgot to put my name in the credits of his podcast as the composer, but I'm here to tell you that I wrote the music for his podcast. Whatever it's called, I don't know.